Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for stopping by the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast today. I'm excited to finally get to this 30-part series on my newest book, which I wrote last year in 2019, Blue Collar Leadership and Culture, the 5 components for building high-performance teams. If you're a regular listener, I hope you've enjoyed the past 10 episodes, which were basically interviews with leaders who have used my Blue Collar Leadership content, any of my 5 books and other books, to grow and develop themselves and their teams. And I hope you enjoyed that. There was a lot of leaders from different industries. Also threw in a interview with my son, Eric, and also a friend and previous client that I worked with, Greg Williams, 6-time national champion equestrian coach at Auburn, head coach at Auburn University. So it's been a great mix in there. And also episode 170 was actually Mike Huff, the CEO of GAT Airline Ground Support. And at the time I recorded that interview, was pre-coronavirus crisis, but Mike was leading about 5,000 employees at the CEO level. And he talked about how he actually used this book and began transforming the culture of the organization. They already had a great culture, but they're going to transform it to a higher level. Maybe enhance is a better word. But he bought into this content. He ordered 600 books. He started leading his executive team through a book study, and he talks about that in the interview. So go check that out if you have an interest. But now it's time to get to this 30-part series, which will take us throughout the rest of 2020. And I've been excited. I almost started the year with this series, but I wanted to do the right thing and talk about personal transformation. So if you go back to episode 158, you can hear an 11-part series on my book, The 10 Foundational Elements of Intentional Transformation, How to Become Your Best Self. But this series is about cultural transformation. That series was about personal transformation. This one is about cultural transformation. So in today's episode, I'm going to kind of introduce you to the book, why I wrote it, and also help you understand and introduce you to chapter 1 of the book and cover that briefly. But this book was actually based on something that Rhea, my wife, and I developed called the Blue Collar Leadership White Paper. And a lot of the content I'm going to talk about today is kind of based on that 4-page white paper, which is what the book's actually based on. And more specifically, within the white paper, we developed something called the transformation equation. And this entire white paper, that transformation equation, these 4 pages, that's what I took and created Blue Collar Leadership and Culture, this 5th book in the Blue Collar Leadership series. So if you want to check out this white paper and get it, this is something you can share. You can read it online on my website, or you can share it with other people, download a PDF, whatever. But you can also get it, a lot of what I'm talking about right here, in a nice little package. Just go to bluecollarleadership.com/white paper. And you actually can also go to bluecollarleadership.com/download and access this white paper. And you can also access 8 excerpts from my 13 books. And some of those are the first 5 chapters of all of the Blue Collar Leadership books are available there. So bluecollarleadership.com/downloads. You can get the white paper, and you can read some excerpts from all of these Blue Collar Leadership series books and a few others. So as we get started here today, I want you to know the entire purpose of this book is to help the top leader, the CEO, the business owner, help them understand how to create a culture that causes them to become the sought-after employer of choice in their industry. How to help them start attracting and retaining top talent. But before you can retain top talent, you've got to attract top talent. And so instead of searching for good people, leaders who apply what I'm teaching in this book will create an organizational culture that will attract great people. It's always easier to compete when you're attracting great people instead of searching for good people. So let's get into this content. And again, today is kind of an introduction to the book, and then also introduction to chapter 1, a little bit of both. I wrote this book as a roadmap and a guide, especially for leaders who've never heard of the type content that I speak about. Rhea and I speak to a lot of professional conferences and associations. We speak to groups of business owners, business leaders, top-level leaders, and a lot of times there's people in the room who've never heard this stuff, and they want to know, how do I go do it? So I wrote this book as a guide and a manual of first, why should you do it? And then how do you do it? And then what do you actually do? So this book actually references many of my other books. So you use this book. This is like the playbook. And then a lot of my other books and Rhea's books are the actual plays. So this is the big picture. And then each one of our other books that I mentioned in different chapters, I talk about them. You go grab those books and you actually begin to transform the culture. But this one's all about, this is a book you can use for vision casting, help everyone understand why are we about to do what we're going to do, that sort of stuff. And anyone knows me, they know my mission is to help leaders engage the front line to improve the bottom line. Often, leaders who don't understand this stuff think that means I only focus on the front line. That's how I get to improve the bottom line, focus on the front line. I will do that. I love doing that, and I'm passionate about doing that. But also what I do is help develop leaders worth following. So the people on the front line are engaged. First have to engage the leaders to engage the workforce. So it's not just that I work with and support the frontline entry-level people. I work with CEOs and business owners and everyone in between. It's the full package. So what I know is every team wants a great leader. And every leader wants great team members. But high-impact leaders understand the culture of an organization affects everything else. And high-impact leaders understand the culture starts with them. That's why they're high-impact leaders. Low-impact leaders, they don't have an interest in this book. Sometimes I have people say, Mack, you need to come talk to the leaders in my organizations. And then they begin to tell me basically how terrible they are. And I say, those leaders are not interested in talking to me. They're not interested. They don't share my values. They don't share your values. But this book could potentially spark something in even those kind of leaders to help them understand that they need to transform themselves in their organizations. And again, that's what this book is to help. If you're in an organization and you listen to me, but your leaders don't do this stuff, this is a book you need to get, you need to read, and then you need to get them a copy, gift it to them. However you need to introduce them to this book, maybe introduce them to this podcast series, or get them a book, tell them about the podcast series. Somehow you've got to lead up. You got to make it happen because they don't know about this. What I do know is this. Many leaders are frustrated because they have disengaged team members. Employee engagement is not only the key to increasing productivity, profitability, and teamwork, but it's also the key to reducing turnover, costs, and frustrations for organizational leaders. And according to many polls, specifically thinking about one Gallup poll where they mentioned that only 34% of U.S. workers are engaged. And what I'm talking about right here, and I'm really beginning to introduce you to Chapter 1. The title of Chapter 1 is The Cost of Culture. And in Chapter 1, I talk about the 3 dilemmas: engagement, retention, and turnover. And I'm about to talk about these to you here in just a second. But this is how you sell the top leader. This is how you get them to buy in. This is what I'm actually doing in the book. The first 5 chapters, I'm trying to get a top leader to buy into culture transformation. Why should they do it? Because it's hard. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time, and it's hard. But they buy into this because they understand the cost of disengagement, the inability to retain top talent, or any talent for that purpose, but also how much turnover costs. So let's talk a little bit about the engagement dilemma. Employee engagement starts with engaged leadership. And see, a lot of leaders, they don't want to look in the mirror and take on that responsibility. They want to blame the people for not being engaged. But in this book, I talk about it and I make it clear to see. There's only one reason the frontline workforce, or any level, if I'm talking to the top leader, it could be anybody at any level from top to bottom. When those people are not engaged, there's something I already know. Their leader is not engaged. I don't mean engaged with managing the people. Pretty much all leaders are engaged with managing the people, or either they won't have a job very long. What I'm talking about is engagement relative to leading the people. Many people who are responsible for managing things and processes are also responsible for managing people. And they've never even been taught how to lead people. And they're not even expected necessarily to lead people, because a lot of times their leader hasn't been taught how to lead or doesn't value leading. Again, learning how to lead as an individual takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. So many leaders don't realize that disengaged employees are a symptom of disengaged leaders at one or more levels of the organization. And in fact, research shows 79% of employees are on average 40% more productive and engaged when working for a better leader. So basically what that means is 80% of people say and believe that they're 40% more productive when they're working for a better leader or following a better leader. And again, the level of engagement below is determined by the level of engagement above. See, leadership development, or the lack of it, at every level determines morale, engagement, turnover, productivity, communication, teamwork, and how customers are served. Because remember, leadership is influence. So how customers are served depends on how well we can influence them. However, though, many people are overmanaged and underled. People who are managed become disengaged. People who are led become highly engaged. And again, this book is to help an organization's leadership understand, how do I engage my team at any level, the leaders who report to me, the leaders who report to them, the frontline team who reports to somebody at some level. How do we lead these people so that they'll become highly engaged? And again, it means we as leaders have to become highly engaged in developing ourselves and developing others. That's the only way it happens. Leadership development is the key to transforming the culture of an organization and improving the team's results. It says easy, but it does hard. So let's talk about the retention dilemma. Talked a little bit about engagement. Let's talk about retention. And this is the key. The competition wants more than just your customers. And a lot of people never even understand that. Many leaders don't realize the competition for customers is only one of 2 types of competition. I talk about this a lot from the stage. But disengaged leaders lose more than customers to their competitors. they also lose their team members to competitors. So there's two types of competition: those who want your customers and those who want your team members, especially top talent. Everybody's looking for top talent, including the top talent that's on your team. So a leader's ability to attract and retain high-performance employees is a crucial factor for organizational success. Employees who are disengaged are far more likely to change jobs and even change industries, because disengagement leads to dissatisfaction. If you're dissatisfied at your job, unless you're a high-impact individual who's value-driven, you're going to be disengaged. But if you're a high-impact, value-driven person and you're dissatisfied, you're still going to be highly engaged, but you're also going to be looking for somewhere else to go work. And it won't take you long if you're a high-impact individual. So minimizing employee turnover by increasing engagement is critical to improving the bottom line for organizations. 87% of managers wish they had more training before becoming a manager. That is so sad. 87% of managers wish they had more training before becoming a manager. What that means is the leaders above them let them down. They didn't give them enough development before they asked them to go out and lead people. And again, most people are expected to manage people. They're not expected to lead people. High-performance team members and managers are looking for more than a good salary. They're also seeking growth and development opportunities that will help them become more successful personally and professionally. So high-impact leaders understand they must offer more development opportunities in order to become the employer of choice in their area, meaning where they're located, and in their industry. Let's talk about the third dilemma, the turnover dilemma. See, these are all related: retention, turnover, engagement. They're all related, but I'm putting a little different spin on each one. So what I talk about when I relate to the turnover dilemma is, as a leader, are you tired of hiring, then firing? Retention, I was kind of talking about people are choosing to leave. Turnover, I'm more talking about we hire people and then we've got to let them go because they don't fit or they don't perform or both. But we primarily interview, select, and hire employees based on the competency of the candidate. Competency is the skill set, the technical knowledge, and the ability to perform a task or job. Competency is what we do at work. Everybody knows that. That's what most people are hired for, no matter what level they're working at. They brought in, they interviewed, and mostly they're talking about competency. Sometimes that's all they're talking about. However, we're usually terminating employees based on their character. Character is who we are and how we do what we do. Some people call it the soft skills, such as attitude, work ethic, integrity, leadership, and ability to work with others. 90% of our results as individuals and organizations is determined by our character. You think about it. You can validate that. Don't worry about the number, the percentage. Who cares about that? I'm just telling you that because that's actually the number based on research. All you need to know is, can you validate it? Throughout your career, have you seen most people are hired for competency and then fired for character? Pretty much all the time. And if you were here where I could talk to you, I promise you couldn't tell me when someone was terminated and it wasn't character. You may think it's competency, but you tell me it's competency, I'm going to ask you some questions and you're going to figure out it was character. Because character determines even if you develop a competency. Character determines when something changes at work, are you willing to embrace the change, learn the new competency, and continue forward? Or are you going to moan, groan, whine when change happens, and because you got to learn something new? Learning something new is about competency, but moaning, groaning, whining is about character. So in other words, employees are hired for what they know, but fired for who they are. Performance problems are almost exclusively a character issue. However, most training and development is focused on improving competency. So if you're tired of hiring and firing employees, it's time to look at several key factors. One is the selection process. Are you hiring based on competency and character? If you're not doing leadership development, personal growth and development within your organization, most people don't even understand what hiring based on character means. They just think that means, are you a good person or a bad person? It's far, far, far more than that. But most companies, they just focus on the competency. Second key factor is culture in the organization that you need to focus on. The third is engagement of formal authority leaders. And the fourth is leadership development of both leaders and team members, everybody. So again, those four factors, if you're tired of hiring and firing employees, tired of turnover, you got to focus there. Selection process, culture in the organization, engagement of formal authority leaders, and development of leaders and the folks who follow those leaders. Leadership development is the key to transformation. It can't happen without leadership development. Transformation won't happen. Personal transformation won't happen without personal development. Leadership development isn't just about the position or title that leaders hold. It's about the leader's ability to influence others, specifically their team members. It's about the leader's character. That's what leadership development is. Leadership development equals character development. So high impact leadership is highly effective leadership that delivers results. It's more than improving culture, initiating change, managing an organization, or leading a team. Far beyond short-term initiatives, high-impact leadership is about lasting, long-term, positive impact and transformation in the organization and, most importantly, in the lives of others. Not only at work, but also at home. I'm telling you, if you help people have a better life, I'm talking about in general. And most of the time, having a better life means how life is at home. Also at work, but also at home. There's a lot of people who have a lot of problems at home. And it's because they need to work on themselves, but they don't know it because they've never been exposed to it. So leadership development is personal and professional development geared toward helping someone develop their character and increase their influence, first with self and then with others. So character development helps us make better choices as individuals, which helps us be more effective at work and in life at home. Leadership development is the key to transforming culture and also continuous improvement. It's about creating buy-in, that sort of thing. Leadership development at every level in the organization helps engage employees because they feel recognized, valued, empowered, and respected. And trust is built. Think about this quote from Stephen M.R. Covey. When trust goes down, speed will also go down, and costs will go up. When trust goes up, speed will also go up, and costs will go down. You can validate that. It's a principle. It's how it works. And when you start transforming an organization, you start building trust with the people at all levels. That's why it's key that the top leader understands what's in this book and why what I talk about and write about in here is important. So leadership development helps engage leaders at a high level as they become equipped with the tools and knowledge to lead with 360 degrees of influence. That's why leadership development applies to everyone. Everyone can lead 360 degrees from wherever they're standing. They lead anyone who reports to them, anyone beside them, anyone above them. Leadership is influence. And this 360 degrees of influence will help improve organizational effectiveness and communication while also increasing the team's performance. It's the key, again, to transforming an organization. Leadership development. So I'm going to leave you. I shared that quote a minute ago by Stephen M.R. Covey, who wrote a book called The Speed of Trust, my number 3 book that I've ever read. And then his dad, Stephen R. Covey, wrote my number 1 book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So I'm going to leave you on this thought by his father, Stephen R. Covey, the author of The 7 Habits. And we'll wrap up today's session. Stephen R. Covey had this to say: imagine the personal and organizational cost of failing to fully engage the passion, talent, and intelligence of the workforce. It is far greater than all taxes, interest charges, and labor costs put together. And a lot of organizations do exactly what he's saying for you to imagine. And that is, they don't develop their team members. Therefore, the organizational team is not developed. So they pay the price of doing business with undeveloped talent. You may say, well, how can that happen? How can they do business like that if they're not developing their people? Because their competition isn't developing their people. This is pretty common, especially in blue-collar industries. But when one organization, one leader decides to be unique and grow and develop their talent, they instantly begin separating themselves from their competition. They also, as time goes by and word-of-mouth advertisement leaks out about who they are and how they value their people, they begin attracting top talent from other organizations. So it's a pretty big deal when you choose to go down this path. So I hope you go and order this book, mark it up as we go through it, read it, maybe read in advance of the episode that I'm going to talk about each week for the next 30 weeks. Also, you can go to my YouTube channel. I have a 30-part video series on this where I just talk 3 minutes on each chapter, off the cuff, unscripted, whatever that was I wanted to talk about at the time I made that series. You go to youtube.com/C as in cat /Mack Story, MackStory, and you can watch a 30-part series, basically 90 minutes of me talking about this book. But I hope you go get the book, and if you're a top-level leader, you may want to get copies of this book for the top leadership team that reports to you, like Mike Huff did. He heard me talk to him about this book. He went and ordered, I believe, 14 copies for his executive staff and C leaders. And as they got into it, then they decided we're going to order 600 copies to take everyone through it. So think about that, about getting the book. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this series. It'll take us out through the end of 2020. And I'll be talking about a chapter each week, just kind of off the cuff. Again, I'm not going to read the book to you. The book's out there in paperback form. It's out there in e-format, electronic format, and it's also already on audio. So you got lots of ways to dive into this content. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership Series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.